Okay, this is the second part of this. We bumped a button, and so this is the second part of the parent encounter meeting. Go.
Okay. And we need to come up with a solution to make sure he's successful in that class as well as his other classes.
So how will I know when will I hear from you?
Mm-hmm. Oh, you'll hear from me by the end of the day to set up a meeting, hopefully later this week. We'll try and find a time that accommodates you, as well as a time that maybe Troy would not be missing some core instruction, maybe a lunch or a special, and we'll make sure that we give that teacher coverage so he can attend the meeting.
So you said I will hear from you
by the end of the day.
By the end of the day.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that because this has me upset.
Absolutely.
Quite upset.
Well, I always appreciate you coming in here. I appreciate you being part of the PTO. That's a really important part. Like I said, we need the community members, and what better community member? You live here, your student goes here, and we need to hear from you. So if you want to, we can get back to this document later with all of your concerns globally from your group, since maybe right now, you might be feeling that you don't want to continue.
Well, this was our scheduled meeting, okay. So no, I'm here for this, but
okay,
you need to know I am very upset that action needs to happen with your Mr. Smith.
I understand. I will make sure that I let you know by the end of the day when we schedule our time to meet. Would you like Troy at that meeting?
I think that could be helpful. I'm going to let that up to you. Okay. But I'm going to trust that you're going to take care of it and deal with it with your teacher and deal with it the way you think you should. If I'm not happy, I will take it to the advocacy group.
Okay. I understand. Thank you very much for trusting us to move forward with the situation. Okay. So do you want to present to me some information that your advocacy group has found?
Well, I believe we've addressed the school board concerning several issues, and because you are the chair of this group, they referred us to work with that. But there are a group of African American and Hispanic parents and community leaders here who feel that we have several issues that you need to look at. One was that we have a disproportionately large number of minority students who are suspended. We also have that same large number of minority students who are in the dropouts. Then we have a very small number, very disproportionately small number of minority students who are even enrolled or given opportunities for gifted and honors classes. I feel that your staff is very stacked. I don't see any minority staff members when we come in here, and so that doesn't represent the community of the students and the parents. And I feel that we don't have any, I just think there's a big need for all kinds of staff development.
Mm-hmm. And I agree with you there. Any kind of staff development that deals with cultural diversity or, best practices for all learners is really important. So I agree with you there, and I think that's a place where maybe we could start. And the advocacy group, maybe we could start kind of doing a needs assessment within the community at large, but primarily our parents and our students, and try and find out what the pulse of the whole community is and go from there. And maybe through a needs assessment, we might find that some of those statistics you gave earlier are, in fact, proven with data, and we could move forward and try and rectify the situation.
Well, I believe they are based on data. That's how we have our information, but I just wonder how you're going to handle this. What are you going to do with it?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the first thing that I would like to do is find out how did you cull your data? How did you find the data? And I know that this is a really big passion for you, and it's a great cause. I think we all need to be very open to the idea of being equitable, whether it's male, female, it's gender, sexual orientation, religious background, just that we provide the best and most safe environment for children. And you're right with some of your statistics. We could do better at cultural diversity training, and we could do better at culturally responsive classroom training. So having instruction match that cultural sensitivity and the cultural needs based on student background. And I think personally for me, looking at your list, that's one place I know we can start. And I don't need to consult anyone or dig deeper into data. That's a place we can start.
Well, and I agree with that. I mean, today's a perfect example. There's Troy, and there's more discrimination just with your teachers right now. So what are you going to do immediately?
Mm-hmm. Well, first with that situation, like I said, I'm absolutely going to talk to the teacher, and I'm going to find out what happened. And it's always discouraging to hear that maybe other students are feeling the same way. So I think, really trying to discuss with the students, use counselors to facilitate and get an honest assessment of what is the pulse of the building. Do students really feel uncomfortable, unsafe, that they're not heard? And are they internalizing it that they're not heard based on, like I said earlier, male, female, religion, race, gender, ethnicity, and really go from there. But I think that's one of the reasons why we have such dedicated guidance counselors, because they can kind of get a feel for what is going on. In that specific situation, like I said, I will definitely be speaking to the teacher, and we'll move forward with that. But I do agree that we could internally do some needs assessment as well.
So how will we as an advocacy group hear about what's happening?
Well, I think I'd like to set up internally, if it's okay with your group, maybe pulling together some counselors and some teachers to meet with your group and discuss what your concerns are. And really just to build the two groups together so that we are working as a team to rectify some of the potential problems that are within the school.
That would be great. We meet every month. We meet the second Wednesday of every month and have scheduled meetings then that we come together as a group.
That would be great. If you'd be willing to put us on your agenda, and maybe we could just maybe have one part of the session be you informing us on what your purpose is and how you came together, and then we could have a question and answer session, or just kind of start facilitating our conversation and dialogue, and then potentially we could move forward. And if your committee would agree to it, maybe we could have some guidance counselors or teachers or other administrators as part of your committee.
Well, because when you come, you're going to hear these things I just shared with you now. I'm representing the whole group now. So what will you report on those?
Well, I think that, for starters, I definitely... Did you say you presented this to the board, the school board?
We took our issues to the school board.
Your issues to the school board.
And you're the chair of the committee.
So, okay. So they've given me the opportunity to work with your group. I definitely think that I would need to find a little more data. And I would encourage, we have local universities that our district use all the time to just really do an unbiased, really hard look at the data. And the great thing about using, F&M or Millersville as a resource is they will dig into far more data than you or I have the time to really dig into. They'll look at test scores, they'll look at attendance, they'll look at some of those other pieces that add into that dropout rate you were talking about. And then when they report back out to us, just even visually, they have, graphs and scales. And I think that would be an even deeper place for us to target the conversation, because once we know, and at this point, the advocacy group is great because you're bringing the concern to the table. But once we know, for example, the dropout rate and, minority versus maybe even socioeconomic or other factors, then we as a group can come up with ideas and plan out how to raise. Well,
do you have any ideas right now that you're thinking about?
About the dropout rate?
No, about how to deal with some of these things with your staff.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think the first thing that the staff needs to know is we have to have some professional development around cultural diversity. And not only cultural diversity, but background knowledge, what we all connect to. Because it is absolutely true that sometimes, what you and I would call one term, someone else might call another. Or I might have the background in knowing simple things that our kids are faced with every day. For example, a radio flyer, pot holders. Sometimes, and it goes above us in some cases that it's standardized testing. So, for example, I have seen released test items that say Mark had 17 pot holders, or Susie had a red radio flyer. Well, our students don't know what that is, but why not, before we get to there, have some culturally responsive classroom teaching where we use things like visuals, we engage background knowledge, and we use context clues to figure out what they are. So when they're presented with the exam, which is out of our hands sometimes, they can kind of pull that knowledge back up and say, oh, okay, either A, hey, you know, Mr. Smith told me about that before, or I don't know if that's crucial to my math problem. And I think that's a really good place to start, because that will take some of those pieces that inhibit learning sometimes and really, you know, engage the students.
Well, I appreciate your time, and I look forward to hearing from you. Now, you said that we will, I will send you an email with our next advocacy meeting.
Great.
And then, when did you say I will hear from you about today's issue?
You'll hear from me by the end of the day. Would you like it in email, or do you want me to call you?
I think I'd like you to call me.
Okay. Yeah, I'll call you by the end of the day, and I'll let you know if you could look and see maybe when your schedule works. I'd like to do it by the end of the week, but, you know, give me some times when I call you that would work to meet, and we'll...
I would like to hear as soon as possible.
Okay, great. Okay. No problem. Thank you for coming in.
And thank you for your time. I'm going to do this now because I'm going to have you hold this because you're candidate 11 and we didn't have your sign there. Push it forward.
Oh, you know,
Push
I'm
that.
so sorry.
Candidate 11 this is. So we have it.
You know, that binder is so full.